Hello, boys and girls, and welcome back for another math lesson with Miss Kim. Today we're going to be doing word problem. But before we read the word problem for today, we're going to look at a picture and we're going to ask ourselves what we notice or see in this picture. Are you ready? This is our picture. You can press pause and ask yourself what you see or what you notice. I noticed that there are many cars parked in a parking lot. How many cars can you count in this picture? Now we're going to be looking at our story problem for today. We're going to read the word problem together. David counts cars in a parking lot. He counts cars in another parking lot. How many cars did David count in all? Whenever we read a story problem, the first thing we need to do is ask ourselves, what are they asking in the story problem? We know that they are asking, how many cars did David count in all? The next thing that we need to ask ourselves is, what type of strategy or what type of story problem is this? Is this an addition problem? Is this a subtraction problem? Is this a multiplication problem? Is this a division problem? We don't know until we read the story problem. And a big clue to tell us what we know what type of problem it is the words in all. We know that they're asking for the total amount of cars that he counted. We know that he counted this number of cars in a parking lot, then he counted this number of cars in a parking lot, and we're going to add it together to find the total amount of cars he counted in all. We're going to be doing three number sets to insert the word problem to see how many cars he counted. Now, when we do our work, I want us to make sure we do all three number sets. I know in our last word problem, I saw many of you only did one set. Make sure you do all three sets. Let's look at our three number sets. So we have David counts 100 cars in a parking lot, then he counts 200 cars in a parking lot. We have our second set, David counts 182 cars in a parking lot, then he counts 109 cars in another parking lot. Then we have our last set, David counts 744 cars in a parking lot. That's a lot of cars. Then he counts 138 cars in another parking lot. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to do the first set, but make sure you do all three number sets. David counts 100 cars in a parking lot. He counts 200 cars in a parking lot. So let's read the question. Let's read the story problem together again. David counts 100 cars in a parking lot. He counts 200 cars in another parking lot. How many cars did David count in all? When we do our story problem, we need to do all three sets. I mean, not all three sets, all three steps. So these are our three steps. First step is you need to show a strategy. Number two, you need to show an equation or number sentence. Number three, you need to write, answer the question in a complete sentence. I'll give you a sentence starter for this story problem. It would be David counts, we don't know the answer yet, cars in all. So these are the three steps that you need to be doing every time when you work on a word problem. My strategy that I'm going to be using is the hundreds and tens chart. I'm going to be writing H for hundreds, then T for tens, and then O for ones. So this is my hundreds and tens and ones chart. The first number that he counted in the parking lot, he counted 100 cars. Let's look at the ones place. So there is 0. We don't put anything here. Then 0 in the tens place, we don't put anything here. Lastly, we know that there is 100. I'm going to draw 100 to represent the 100. Now let's look at the next number, 200. We're going to look at the ones place, 0, we don't put anything here. Tens place, 0, we don't put anything here. Now in the hundreds place, there are two hundreds. 100, 100. We're going to look at the total amount there is and look at the chart. There is 0 ones, 0 tens, so we don't need to count that. But we know that there are 3 hundreds, 100, 100, and 3 hundreds. There are 3 hundreds in all. I showed a strategy by using a hundreds tens chart. Now I have to do the second step. Show an equation or number sentence. I'm going to write 100 plus, where it's an addition problem, 200 makes, we know the total is 300s. So there are 3 100s, 300. Now let's put a check. We did number 1, we showed a strategy using the 100, tens, and ones chart. We showed an equation, number sentence right here. Last step, answer the question in a complete sentence. We have the sentence starter right here. We're going to write David counts. So now we know the final answer. He counted 300 cars in all. David counts 300 cars in all. And that is our last step, our final answer to answer the question, how many cars did David count in all? I'm going to put a check so that I know that I did all 3 steps. When you do your story problem, have the 3 steps with you so you can have a checklist to know that you did all 3 sets to get full credit. Now that we did the first set together, you need to do the first set on your own, then you need to do the second set, then you need to do the third set. You need to do all 3 number sets, and you have to do all 3 steps. Now that we finished this, you can do it on your own now. I'll see you next time for another math lesson. Bye.